She didn't even look up when she said it. That account was closed. Just like that. Like she was talking about an old bill, not my father's last gift to me. I stood at the kitchen counter, holding a mug of coffee that suddenly felt too heavy. My sister was scrolling through her phone, completely calm. Too calm. "What do you mean, closed?" I asked. She shrugged. "I mean, it's closed. Done. Not active anymore." My heart started beating faster. That account had the last bit of money my dad left me when he passed 6 months ago. I hadn't touched it. I was saving it. It was supposed to be safe. "When did that happen?" I pressed. "I don't know. A while ago, I think." Her tone was flat. Annoyed, even. "Why didn't you tell me?" She finally looked up, but only for a second. "I thought you knew." That didn't make sense. None of it did. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. It wasn't just confusion. It was suspicion. "How would I know if no one told me?" I said, trying to keep my voice steady. She sighed like I was bothering her. "I don't know. Maybe the bank sent you something. Look, it's not a big deal. It was barely anything anyway." Barely anything. My dad had put that money aside for me. It wasn't a fortune, but it mattered. It was his way of making sure I'd be okay after he was gone. And she just dismissed it. I opened my mouth to say something else, but she cut me off. "Why are you stressing about this now? It's been months." Her voice had an edge to it. Not concern, not sympathy. Control. That's what I heard. She wanted me to drop it, to move on, to stop asking questions. But I couldn't, because something in her tone didn't match the situation. She wasn't surprised. She wasn't confused. She was defensive. I set the mug down slowly, my hands shaking just a little. "I'm going to call the bank," I said. She stiffened. Just for a second. But I saw it. "Why? I already told you, it's closed." "I know what you told me," I said quietly, "but I want to hear it from them." Her jaw tightened. She didn't say anything else, just went back to her phone. But the air between us had changed. I walked out of the kitchen, my mind racing. That account was in my name. My name. If it was closed, I should have been notified. I should have signed something. And if I didn't, then who did? I went upstairs to my room and pulled out the folder where I kept all my important documents. Bank statements, old letters from Dad, copies of his will. I flipped through the pages looking for anything recent about that account. Nothing. No closure notice, no final statement, no letter. My hands were trembling now. I sat down on the edge of my bed and stared at the papers in front of me. My sister had been helping me manage things after Dad died. She said I was too emotional to deal with it all, that she'd handle the paperwork, the bills, the accounts. I trusted her. I let her. And now she was telling me an account in my name was just gone, and I should have somehow known about it. I felt sick. I picked up my phone and searched for the bank's customer service number, but then I stopped. No, I wasn't going to do this over the phone. I was going in person. Tomorrow morning. And I wasn't going to tell her. Because if something was wrong, if something had been done without my permission, I needed to know the truth before she had a chance to cover it up. I put the folder back in my drawer and lay down, staring at the ceiling. Sleep didn't come easy that night. All I could hear was her voice, playing over and over in my head. That account was closed. But the way she said it wasn't the truth. It was a cover. And tomorrow, I was going to find out what she was hiding. Chapter 2. The first crack in her story. The bank felt colder than usual that morning. I walked through the glass doors just after 9, my stomach tight with nerves. I hadn't slept well. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw my sister's face, that blank, dismissive expression when she told me the account was closed. I stepped up to the counter and gave the teller my name. She typed something into her computer, then paused. Her eyes flicked up to me, then back to the screen. That hesitation said everything. "Is there a problem?" I asked. "Just one moment, please," she said softly. She picked up the phone and spoke in a low voice to someone I couldn't hear. My heart was pounding now. A few seconds later, she hung up and gave me a polite smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Someone will be with you shortly. You can have a seat over there." I didn't want to sit. I wanted answers. but I nodded and walked to the waiting area, my legs feeling unsteady. 5 minutes passed, then 10. Finally, a woman in a navy blazer approached me. "Hi, I'm Ms. Reyes, the branch manager. Would you mind coming with me?" Her tone was calm, professional, but something about it made my chest tighten even more. I followed her into a small office at the back. She closed the door and gestured for me to sit. "Thank you for coming in," she said, settling into her chair. "I understand you're here about your account?" "Yes," I said. "My sister told me it was closed, but I never received any notice. I didn't authorize anything." Ms. Reyes looked at me carefully. "The account isn't closed," she said. Relief hit me for half a second, until I saw her expression. "But it has been significantly reduced." My stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" She turned her monitor toward me and pulled up the account details. I stared at the screen. The balance was almost zero. That can't be right," I whispered. "There were multiple withdrawals over the past 4 months," she said gently. "Large ones." I couldn't breathe. "I didn't make those." "I understand this is difficult," Ms. Reyes said, "but according to our records, the withdrawals were authorized with proper identification and signatures." "No," my voice cracked. "I didn't authorize anything. I haven't touched that account since my dad passed." She nodded slowly, her face serious now. "Then we need to look into this further. Because someone did." My hands were shaking. "Who?" I asked. "Who came in?" Ms. Reyes hesitated. "I'll need to pull the documentation, but if you're saying these transactions weren't made by you, then we may be looking at fraud." The word hit me like a punch. Fraud. Someone had stolen from me, and I already knew who had access to everything: my documents, my mail, my personal information. My sister. "I need to see everything," I said, my voice steadier now. "Every withdrawal, every signature, everything." Ms. Reyes nodded. "I'll gather the records, but I have to warn you, if this goes further, it may require filing a formal report, possibly legal action." "I don't care," I said. "I want the truth." She stood and left the room. I sat there alone, staring at that number on the screen. Almost empty. Months of withdrawals. Careful. Spaced out. Strategic. This wasn't a mistake. This was planned. When Ms. Reyes came back, she had a folder in her hands. She sat down and opened it in front of me. "These are copies of the withdrawal slips," she said quietly. I pulled the papers closer, and there it was, my name, my signature, over and over again. But it wasn't mine. I knew my own handwriting. I'd signed my name 1,000 times. This was close, too close. But it wasn't me. Someone had forged it. My throat went dry. "This isn't my signature," I said. Ms. Reyes leaned forward, studying the documents. "Are you certain?" "Yes." My voice was shaking now. "Look at the loops, the slant. It's close, but it's not me." She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Do you know anyone who would have access to your identification? Your documents?" I didn't answer right away, because I didn't want it to be true. But it was. "My sister," I said finally. "She's been helping me with paperwork since my dad died. She had access to everything." Ms. Reyes wrote something down. "And does she know your account information?" I nodded. "She told me yesterday that the account was closed, but clearly, it wasn't." The manager's expression shifted. She understood now. "I'm going to need to escalate this," she said. "We'll review all the documentation, including any ID that was presented during the withdrawals. If there's evidence of forgery, we'll need to involve our fraud department." "Do it," I said. She nodded. "This may take a few days, but in the meantime, I'm going to freeze the account to prevent any further activity." "Thank you." I stood up, my legs weak but my mind sharp. I walked out of that office knowing one thing for sure. My sister didn't just lie to me. She stole from me. And she thought I'd never find out. 2 days later, I got the call. Ms. Reyes asked me to come back to the bank. She said she had the full report ready. I didn't tell my sister where I was going. I didn't tell her anything. I just left. When I arrived, Ms. Reyes was waiting for me in the same office. This time, there was a thicker folder on the desk, and this time, her expression was even more serious. "Thank you for coming back," she said as I sat down. "I've reviewed everything." She opened the folder and slid several documents toward me. These are the withdrawal slips. And these, she pulled out another set of papers, are copies of the ID that was presented each time. My hands were already shaking before I even looked. I picked up the first slip. There was my name. My signature, or what was supposed to be my signature. But beneath it, in small print, was a photocopy of a driver's license. My address. My birth date. But the picture. It wasn't me. It was her. My sister. I stared at it, unable to speak. This was presented at the counter, Ms. Reyes said quietly, each time. She used her own photo, I whispered. Yes, with your information. My chest felt like it was caving in. How is that even possible? It's not uncommon in cases of identity theft within families, Ms. Reyes said, especially when someone has access to personal documents. I flipped through the other slips. Same thing. Over and over. Her face. My name. She hadn't just forged my signature, she'd created a fake ID. She'd walked into this bank multiple times and drained my account while pretending to be me. And no one stopped her. Why didn't anyone notice? I asked, my voice cracking. Ms. Reyes looked uncomfortable. The transactions were spaced out. Different tellers. She was calm, professional, and she had documents that appeared legitimate. But it wasn't me. I know, and I'm sorry. I put my head in my hands. This wasn't just a lie. This wasn't just betrayal. This was calculated, methodical, cold. She had planned this. There's more, Ms. Reyes said carefully. I looked up. She slid another paper toward me. We pulled security footage from the dates of the withdrawals. I felt my stomach twist. Do you want to see it? I nodded, even though every part of me wanted to run. She turned her computer screen toward me and pressed play. The video was grainy, black and white, but clear enough. There she was, my sister, walking up to the counter, smiling, handing over the fake ID, signing my name, calm, confident, like she had every right to be there. I watched her pocket the cash and walk out. The timestamp showed it was 3 months ago, right around the time she told me I should let go of the account, that I was holding on to the past. She wanted me to forget it existed, so I wouldn't check, so I wouldn't know. I felt sick. I'm so sorry, Ms. Reyes said again. I couldn't respond. I just kept staring at the screen. What happens now? I finally asked. That's up to you, she said. You can file a police report for fraud and identity theft. We'll provide all the documentation. Or, she trailed off. Or what? Or you can handle this privately. But I have to tell you, legally, this is a serious crime. I looked at the folder, at the fake ID, at the forged signatures, at the footage of my sister walking out with my father's money. Money he left for me, not her. She's family, Ms. Reyes said gently. I know that makes this harder. I laughed bitterly. She stopped being family the moment she did this. Ms. Reyes nodded. Then I'll prepare everything you need. I stood up, my whole body shaking. Do it. She handed me a business card. This is the fraud department. They'll walk you through the next steps. And if you need anything else, call me directly. I took the card and walked out. The air outside felt too bright, too normal, like the world hadn't just collapsed. I sat in my car and stared at the folder in my lap. My sister had looked me in the eye and lied. She'd told me the account was closed. She'd told me to move on. And the whole time, she'd been stealing from me. I thought about all the times she helped me after Dad died, all the paperwork she took control of, all the conversations she shut down. It wasn't help, it was control. And now I knew why. I wasn't going to confront her yet, not until I had everything, not until there was no way out, because she was good at lying. But I was done being the one who believed her. I didn't go home right away. Instead, I sat in a coffee shop parking lot and opened the folder Ms. Reyes had given me. I went through every page, every withdrawal, every date, and then I started thinking, if she did this with the bank account, what else did she do? I pulled out my phone and started searching through old emails, text messages, anything from the months after Dad passed. That's when I found it. An email from the estate lawyer, sent 4 months ago. Subject line, "Final documents, please review and sign." I didn't remember seeing it. I opened it. The lawyer had attached copies of the will, account transfers, and property documents, everything that needed to be finalized. At the bottom, there was a note, Please confirm receipt and return signed copies by end of week. I never got those documents. My sister told me she'd handle it. I trusted her. I scrolled further and found another email. This one was her reply to the lawyer, sent from my email account. Received, I'll get them back to you soon. She'd replied as me. I felt my hands start to shake. I kept digging. Bank statements I never saw, bills that were taken care of. Insurance forms, she said, didn't need my signature. She'd been filtering everything, controlling the paperwork, controlling the information. And I'd let her, because I was grieving, because I was overwhelmed, because I thought she was helping. But she wasn't helping. She was erasing me. I drove home, my mind racing. When I walked in, she was sitting on the couch, watching TV. Hey, she said casually. Where were you? Just out, I said. She didn't even look up. I went upstairs and locked my bedroom door. Then I opened the drawer where I kept all my personal documents. Birth certificate, social security card, passport. I pulled everything out and started going through it piece by piece. That's when I noticed something. There were gaps. Papers I remembered having weren't there anymore. Statements from the month Dad died, a copy of his insurance policy, the original will. Gone. I sat back, my heart pounding. She'd been in my room. She'd taken things. Not all at once, just enough that I wouldn't notice right away, just enough to stay in control. I opened my laptop and logged into the estate lawyer's portal. It took me a few tries to remember the password. She'd helped me set it up. When I finally got in, I saw it. Documents had been uploaded, signed, filed, but I hadn't signed them. I clicked on one. My signature was there, but again, it wasn't mine. She'd forged these too. I sat there staring at the screen, my whole body numb. This wasn't just about the bank account. She'd been systematically taking control of everything Dad left behind. And she thought I'd never check. She thought I'd just move on, stay quiet, stay grateful. I closed the laptop and lay back on my bed, staring at the ceiling. For months, I'd been grieving, and for months, she'd been stealing. But now I knew, and I wasn't going to let her get away with it. I picked up my phone and texted Ms. Reyes. I need to meet again. There's more. She replied within minutes. Tomorrow morning, I'll be ready. I put the phone down and exhaled slowly. My sister thought she was smarter than me. She thought I was too broken to notice, too trusting to question. But she was wrong. And soon she was going to find out just how wrong. The next morning, I met with Ms. Reyes again. This time, I brought everything. The emails, the forged estate documents, the missing paperwork. She went through it all, her expression growing darker with every page. This is beyond the bank account, she said finally. This is full identity theft, estate fraud. I know. You need to involve the police. I will, I said, but not yet. She looked at me surprised. Why not? Because if I go to the police now, she'll know. She'll get a lawyer. She'll start covering her tracks. Ms. Reyes leaned back in her chair. So what do you want to do? I met her eyes. I want to confront her, here, with you. She was quiet for a moment. You want to bring her into the bank? Yes. I'll tell her there's an issue with the account, something that needs to be fixed. She'll come. She won't suspect anything. Ms. Reyes considered it. And when she's here? You show her everything. The withdrawals, the fake ID, the footage. And then? Then I ask her to explain. Ms. Reyes shook her head slowly. You know she'll lie. I know, but I want to see her try. I want her to sit in this room and look me in the face and lie, while the evidence is right in front of her. Ms. Reyes studied me for a long moment. Then she nodded. All right, I'll do it, but you need to be prepared. This could get ugly. I'm ready. She pulled out her calendar. When? Tomorrow, I said, before she has time to think. That night, I went home and acted completely normal. I made dinner, watched TV, talked about nothing. My sister didn't notice a thing. After she went to bed, I sat at the kitchen table and rehearsed what I was going to say. I wasn't angry anymore, I was calm, cold even. Because anger made you sloppy, and I couldn't afford to be sloppy. The next morning, I waited until she was awake and having coffee. Then I casually said, "Hey, I got a call from the bank yesterday." She looked up, just slightly tense. "Yeah?" "They said there's an issue with Dad's account. Something about paperwork that didn't go through right." Her face didn't change, but I saw her fingers tighten around her mug. "What kind of issue?" "I don't know. They want me to come in and fix it. But they said since you helped me with all that stuff, you should come too." She hesitated. "I'm sure it's just a mistake." "Probably," I said lightly, "but they seemed pretty serious. I made an appointment for this afternoon. Can you come?" She didn't answer right away. I could see her thinking, calculating. "Yeah," she said finally. "I'll come." "Thanks," I said, smiling. She smiled back, but it didn't reach her eyes. We drove to the bank in silence. She kept glancing at me, like she was trying to read my face. But I gave her nothing. When we walked in, Ms. Reyes was waiting. "Thank you both for coming," she said professionally. "Let's go to my office." My sister followed, her shoulders stiff. We sat down. Ms. Reyes closed the door. And then, everything changed. She didn't start with small talk. She opened the folder, and she laid the first withdrawal slip on the desk. "Do you recognize this?" Ms. Reyes asked. My sister glanced at it. "No, should I?" "It's a withdrawal from your sister's account, signed in her name." "Okay." Ms. Reyes slid the fake ID across the desk. "This is the ID that was used." My sister's face went pale, because it was her picture, with my name. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. I don't understand." "Don't you?" I said quietly. She looked at me, eyes wide. "This is a mistake. That's not—" Ms. Reyes pressed play on the security footage, and there she was, walking in, handing over the ID, taking the money. My sister stared at the screen, frozen. "Would you like to explain?" Ms. Reyes asked calmly. My sister didn't answer. Her hands were shaking now. She looked at me, and for the first time in months, she had nothing to say. The silence in that office was deafening. My sister sat frozen, staring at the screen where her own face stared back at her. Ms. Reyes paused the video. "Would you like to explain?" she repeated. My sister's mouth opened, but nothing came out at first. Then she laughed. It was sharp, nervous. "This is ridiculous," she said. "There's obviously been some kind of mix-up." "A mix-up?" I said flatly. She turned to me, her eyes wide and desperate now. "Yes, I mean, maybe I came in to help you with something and they got confused." "You're in the footage," Ms. Reyes said, "using a fake ID, with your photo and her information." "That's not—" Ms. Reyes laid out another document, then another. Withdrawal slips, dates, amounts, all of them signed with my name, all of them her. My sister's face shifted from shock to panic to something uglier, anger. "Why are you doing this?" she snapped at me. "Why are you trying to make me look bad?" I just stared at her. "I'm not doing anything," I said quietly. "You did this." No, you're twisting things. Ms. Reyes cut her off. "We have 4 months of documented transactions, security footage, forged signatures, and a fraudulent ID. This isn't a misunderstanding." My sister's hands were shaking now. She looked at me again, her voice breaking. "You're really going to believe them over me?" "I believe the evidence," I said. Her face crumpled. For a moment, I thought she might cry, but then her expression hardened. "Fine," she said. "You want the truth?" "Yes," I said. She leaned forward, her voice low and bitter. "I needed the money." The words hung in the air. Ms. Reyes didn't move. I didn't breathe. "I was drowning," my sister continued. "You have no idea what it's been like. After Dad died, I had to take care of everything. The bills, the funeral, the house. You were a mess. Someone had to step up. So you stole from me." "I borrowed it," she snapped. "I was going to pay it back." "When?" I asked. "When were you going to pay it back? When were you going to tell me you'd emptied the account?" She didn't answer. "You told me it was closed," I said, my voice rising now. "You lied to my face." "Because I knew you'd react like this." "Like what? Like someone who just found out their sister committed fraud?" She stood up, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. "I did what I had to do," she said. "And yeah, maybe I should have told you. But you wouldn't have understood. You never understand." "Try me," I said coldly. She looked away, her jaw tight. "I had debts, credit cards, a loan I couldn't pay. I needed cash fast, and that account was just sitting there." "It wasn't yours." "It was Dad's money," she shouted. "And he would have wanted me to use it if I needed it." "He left it to me," I said, my voice shaking now. "Not you, me." Her face twisted. "Of course he did. Perfect little you. He always loved you more." The words hit like a slap, but I didn't back down. "That's what this is about?" I asked. "Jealousy?" "No, it's about survival. It's about doing what needed to be done while you sat around crying." Ms. Reyes stood up now, her voice firm. "This conversation is over." My sister turned to her, eyes wild. "You can't do anything. She's my sister. This is between us." "No," Ms. Reyes said. "This is fraud, identity theft, forgery, and it's a crime." My sister's face went white. "You're not seriously going to press charges." She looked at me, her voice breaking again. Tell her you're not." I didn't say anything. "Please," she whispered, "I'm your sister." I stood up slowly. "You stopped being my sister the day you forged my name." Her eyes filled with tears. But I didn't feel sorry for her, I felt nothing. "Ms. Reyes," I said, "what happens next?" The manager looked at my sister, then at me. "If you want to file a formal complaint, I can contact our fraud department and the authorities. They'll take it from there." My sister grabbed my arm. "Don't do this, please. I'll pay it back, I swear. Just don't." I pulled my arm away. "You had months to tell me the truth," I said. "You didn't. You lied. You stole. And you only care now because you got caught." She was crying now, but it didn't move me. Not anymore. Ms. Reyes opened the door. "I'm going to need you to wait outside," she said to my sister. No, I'm not leaving." "Ma'am," Ms. Reyes said firmly, "you need to leave this office. Now." My sister looked at me one last time, her face a mess of tears and anger. Then she turned and walked out. The door closed. I sat back down, my whole body trembling. Ms. Reyes sat across from me. "Are you okay?" I nodded, even though I wasn't sure. "What do you want to do?" she asked gently. I looked at the folder on the desk, at the fake ID, the footage, the forged signatures, at the proof of everything she'd done. "I want to file charges," I said. Ms. Reyes nodded. "I'll make the calls." I waited in Ms. Reyes's office while she made the calls. My sister was somewhere in the lobby. I didn't know if she was still crying or planning her next move. I didn't care. 20 minutes later, Ms. Reyes came back. "The fraud department is sending someone over. They'll take your statement and begin the formal process." "How long will it take?" "It depends, but with this much evidence, it won't take long." I nodded. "And her?" Ms. Reyes hesitated. "She'll be notified. If charges are filed, she'll need to respond legally. This could result in criminal penalties." "Good." She looked at me carefully. "Are you sure you want to go through with this?" "Yes." "Even though she's family?" I met her eyes. "Especially because she's family." Ms. Reyes didn't argue. A few minutes later, there was a knock on the door. A man in a suit stepped in. He introduced himself as Mr. Landry from the bank's fraud investigation unit. He sat down and went through everything with me. I told him about the account, the lies, the forged documents, the missing paperwork from the estate. He took notes, asked questions, reviewed the evidence. Then he said, "This is a clear case of identity theft and financial fraud. We'll forward everything to the authorities. You'll need to file a police report as well." "I will." He stood and shook my hand. "I'm sorry this happened to you." "Thank you." After he left, Ms. Reyes walked me to the lobby. My sister was sitting in the corner, her face red and puffy. When she saw me, she stood up. "Can we please talk?" she said, her voice desperate. "No." "Just 5 minutes, please." I stopped and turned to her. "You had 5 minutes in that office. You used it to make excuses." "I wasn't making excuses. You said you needed the money, that you were going to pay it back, that I wouldn't have understood." "Because it's true." "Then why didn't you ask me?" I said, my voice rising. Why didn't you just tell me you were struggling? Why did you have to steal? She didn't answer. Because you didn't think I'd say yes, I continued. You thought you had more of a right to that money than I did. You thought Dad owed you. He did, she shouted. The lobby went quiet. People were staring now, but I didn't care. He left me that money, I said coldly, and you took it. You forged my name, you lied to me for months, and the only reason you're sorry now is because you got caught. Tears streamed down her face. I'm your sister, she whispered. No, I said. A sister wouldn't have done this. I turned and walked toward the door. She called after me. If you do this, you'll regret it. You'll lose me. Is that what you want? I stopped, turned around, and looked her in the eye. I already lost you, I said, the day you decided I didn't matter. Then I walked out. I sat in my car for a long time before I started the engine. My phone buzzed. It was a text from my sister. Please don't do this, I'm begging you. I deleted it. Another one came through. I'll pay it all back, I promise, just give me a chance. I blocked her number. Then I drove to the police station. I walked in, asked for the fraud division, and told them everything. They took my statement, reviewed the documents Ms. Reyes had given me, took copies of the security footage. An officer told me they'd open an investigation, that my sister would be contacted, that this could result in charges. I thanked him and left. When I got home, the house was empty. My sister's car was gone. I went upstairs to my room and sat on the bed. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. Not because it was over, but because I'd finally stopped pretending. I'd stopped protecting her. I'd stopped making excuses, and I'd chosen myself. My phone rang. It was Ms. Reyes. I just wanted to check in, she said. How are you holding up? I'm okay, I said. You did the right thing. I know. There was a pause. Your account has been flagged. No one can access it but you now. Thank you. And if you need anything at all, call me. I will. After I hung up, I lay back and stared at the ceiling. My sister had taken a lot from me. Money, trust, peace. But she didn't take everything. She didn't take my voice. And I wasn't going to stay silent anymore. 3 days later, I got a call from the detective handling the case. We've reviewed everything, he said. The evidence is strong. We're moving forward with charges. My stomach tightened. What does that mean? It means your sister will be formally charged with identity theft, fraud, and forgery. She'll be notified and required to appear in court. I closed my eyes. When? Within the next 2 weeks. You'll be contacted about giving testimony if needed. Okay. I know this isn't easy, he said, but you're doing the right thing. Everyone kept saying that, but it didn't feel right. It felt necessary. After I hung up, I sat in silence for a long time. My phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number. This is me, please. Can we talk? My sister. She must have gotten a new number or borrowed someone's phone. I didn't reply. Another text came through. I know you're angry. I know I messed up, but please don't destroy my life over this. I stared at the words. Destroy her life. Like she hadn't already destroyed mine. Like she hadn't walked into that bank over and over again and stolen what my father left me. Like she hadn't lied to my face and told me to move on. I typed a reply. You did this to yourself. Then I blocked that number too. A week later, I got a letter in the mail. It was from a lawyer. My sister had hired someone. The letter claimed I was overreacting, that this was a family matter that didn't need to involve the legal system, that my sister was willing to enter a repayment plan if I dropped the charges. I read it twice. Then I called Ms. Reyes. I just got a letter from her lawyer. That's not uncommon, she said. They're trying to settle before it goes further. What should I do? That's up to you. But I'll tell you this. If you back down now, there's no guarantee she'll actually pay you back. And there's nothing stopping her from doing this again. I thought about that. About the months of lies, the fake ID, the forged signatures, the cold, dismissive way she told me the account was closed. I'm not backing down, I said. Then don't respond to the letter. Let the legal process continue. Okay. I hung up and threw the letter in the trash. 2 weeks later, I was sitting in a courtroom. It wasn't a trial yet, just a preliminary hearing. But my sister was there. She sat on the other side of the room with her lawyer, dressed in a neat blouse and skirt, her hair pulled back. She looked small, tired. She didn't look at me. The judge reviewed the charges: identity theft, fraud, forgery. My sister's lawyer argued that this was a misunderstanding, a family dispute, that my sister had been under financial stress and made a mistake. The prosecutor presented the evidence: the fake ID, the withdrawals, the security footage, the forged estate documents I'd submitted as additional proof. The judge listened carefully. Then he looked at my sister. "Do you have anything to say?" She stood slowly, her hands clasped in front of her. "Your Honor, I made a terrible mistake. I was desperate and I did something I deeply regret. But I never meant to hurt my sister. I love her, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make this right." Her voice cracked at the end. I sat there watching her perform. The judge looked at me. "And you? Do you wish to make a statement?" I stood. My legs felt weak, but my voice was steady. "Your Honor, my sister didn't make a mistake. She made a choice. She forged my signature. She created a fake ID. She stole from me for months, and she only regrets it now because she got caught." I paused. She told me the account was closed. She wanted me to forget it existed. If I hadn't gone to the bank myself, I never would have known. The judge nodded slowly. "Thank you." He reviewed his notes. Then he said, "Given the evidence and the nature of the charges, I'm ordering this case to proceed. A trial date will be set." My sister's lawyer started to object, but the judge raised his hand. "This is not a family matter, this is fraud, and it will be treated as such." He banged the gavel. My sister sat down, her face pale. I walked out of the courtroom without looking back. Outside, Ms. Reyes was waiting. "How did it go?" "It's going to trial." She nodded. "How do you feel?" I thought about it. "I don't know," I said honestly. "I don't feel happy. But I don't feel guilty either." "That's okay," she said. "You don't have to feel anything but honest." I smiled a little. "Thank you. For everything." "You did this," she said. "I just helped." I walked to my car and sat behind the wheel. My sister had tried to make me feel like I was the villain, like I was the one tearing the family apart. But I wasn't. She did that. The moment she put her picture on a fake ID with my name. The moment she signed documents I never saw. The moment she lied. I started the engine. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was running. I felt like I was finally standing still. The trial took 3 months to arrive. In that time, I didn't hear from my sister. No calls, no texts, no letters, just silence. Part of me wondered if she'd finally realized what she'd done, but I knew better. She was just regrouping. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. My sister sat at the defense table in a gray blazer, her face carefully neutral. I sat on the other side with the prosecutor. The trial lasted 2 days. The prosecutor presented everything: the bank records, the forged signatures, the security footage. Ms. Reyes testified about the fake ID and the withdrawals. The estate lawyer testified about the forged documents I'd uncovered. My sister's lawyer tried to paint her as a victim of circumstance, someone overwhelmed by grief and debt. But the evidence was too clear. On the second day, I was called to the stand. I walked up slowly, my heart pounding. The prosecutor asked me to explain what happened. I told the truth. About my father's death. About trusting my sister. About the day she told me the account was closed. About going to the bank and discovering it had been drained. About finding the forged documents. About realizing she'd been lying to me for months. My sister's lawyer cross-examined me. "Isn't it true that your sister helped you after your father passed?" "Yes." "And isn't it true that you were overwhelmed and unable to manage things yourself?" "I was grieving," I said. "But that doesn't give her the right to steal from me." "She claims she intended to pay you back." "She never told me she took it in the first place." The lawyer paused. "Do you think it's possible she made a mistake?" I looked at my sister. She was staring at the table. "No," I said. "I think she made a choice." The jury deliberated for 4 hours. When they came back, the courtroom was silent. On the charge of identity theft, guilty. On the charge of fraud, guilty. On the charge of forgery, guilty. I didn't feel triumph. I didn't feel vindication. I just felt tired. The judge scheduled sentencing for 2 weeks later. My sister was led out by a bailiff. She glanced at me once as she passed. Her eyes were red, but I didn't look away. At sentencing, the judge gave her 18 months of probation, community service, and ordered her to repay every cent she'd stolen. She wouldn't go to prison, but her record would follow her. Her reputation was destroyed, and she'd lost me. I didn't go to see her after the sentencing. I didn't call, I didn't write, I just went home. A few weeks later, I received a check in the mail. It was the first installment of the repayment plan. I deposited it without feeling anything. Money could be replaced. Trust couldn't. Months passed. I started therapy. I worked through the grief I'd been avoiding. I realized that I hadn't just lost my father, I'd lost the version of my sister I thought I knew. And that hurt more than anything. But I also realized something else. I was stronger than I thought. I'd stood up for myself. I'd refused to be silenced. I'd chosen the truth, even when it was painful. And that mattered. One night I got a letter. It was from my sister. I almost threw it away, but I opened it. It was short. I know you'll probably never forgive me. I don't blame you. I destroyed everything. I was jealous and selfish, and I convinced myself I deserved that money more than you did. I was wrong. I'm sorry. Not because I got caught, but because I hurt you. You didn't deserve that. I hope one day you can find peace, even if it's without me. I read it twice. Then I folded it and put it in a drawer. I didn't reply. Maybe one day I would, but not today. I stood in front of my father's grave a few days later. The air was cool, quiet. I knelt down and touched the stone. "I'm okay, Dad," I whispered. "I'm going to be okay." And for the first time since he'd died, I believed it. Because I'd learned something through all of this. Family isn't just blood, it's trust, respect, honesty. And when those things are gone, it doesn't matter how closely you're related. You have to choose yourself, even if it hurts, even if it costs you everything. Because your peace is worth more than anyone's comfort, and your truth is worth more than anyone's lie. I stood up, took one last look at the grave, and walked back to my car. The sun was setting, but I wasn't afraid of the dark anymore, because I'd already walked through it, and I'd come out stronger on the other side. If this story made you feel something, don't ignore it. Like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear this. Because sometimes the people closest to you are the ones you need to question the most.